Ted Koppel's book Lights Out is very important to this topic because he points out in a very readable way why it is that our country's government systems aren't working well in regard to getting us prepared for a disaster as big as a grid down scenario. He states the catastrophic nature of this issue, and I think he states it very well, especially in regard to the cyber attack issues. Mainly because up until recently, we really didn't think the cyber attack could be as big as, or as bold, or as bad as an EMP, a high-altitude nuclear explosion, or a solar event for that matter. But it can. Now, our attackers have pretty much shown that they can take down the grid, and it could be long-term, and it could be just as disastrous as a high-altitude nuclear explosion in the long run. As a matter of fact, Secretary of Defense Panetta actually said that a couple of years ago, I believe. But Koppel's book was interesting in that it really got into the detail, into the organizations, for instance, like Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. It told how, for instance, one deputy director of an organization might agree that this is a devastating issue that we need to do something about, and yet his director, his boss, his or her boss, may not agree with that. Therefore, nothing would be done in that regard. And he goes step by step through some of the other organizations. And that's really what we've been seeing, if not in regard to cyber, in regard to the high altitude nuclear issues and the solar issues. We really aren't prepared because people are not solidifying behind the reality of this problem. And one of the reasons I don't think they're solidifying behind it is because we've grown so used to risk management that we've actually disregarded anything that might look like worst case, anything that might smell like worst case. We don't even consider it as being applicable to everyday reality, and therefore we don't bother to think about it. We don't want to think about it. We don't prepare for it. I believe we are facing a loss of innocence, and we need to, in this regard, we need to open our eyes and stare reality in the face. The problems are so enormous, and the devastation is so dire that we absolutely have to do something. We have to be prepared, or we're not going to survive as a people, as a nation. It sounds apocalyptic, and I hate to say it, but it is. We've done this kind of thing before. When the internet was invented, we never really thought that cyber criminals could take over, hijack things, could do such things as they have done to, say, the OPM recently, stealing hundreds of thousands of identities, and cyber criminals taking millions of dollars on a regular basis. We didn't prepare for that, and thus we had to catch up. Well, we're needing to catch up now in regard to rebuilding or fixing the grid. We have to do something to make sure that we are not vulnerable, and unfortunately our enemies have already done that. They know how vulnerable we are too. So this isn't something that's optional. This is something we absolutely have to do.